So first of all, thank you so much for coming, and I hope you're enjoying the Qualcomm's Uplink Developer Conference. My name is Liz Phillips. I'm the marketing lead for Vuforia, and I'll be introducing the session. Before we begin, the housekeeping items are please silence your phone. Secondly, there's a 10-minute break scheduled after this, so they're asking that we keep on schedule, so you'll have 10 minutes to get to the next session. And then finally, at the end of every session, we ask that you fill out a speaker feedback form. And at the end of the evening, they're going to be doing some raffle drawings for an 32-inch LG Smart TV. So that's an incentive to fill out those forms. And you do that on the Uplink mobile app. That's all I have for housekeeping, so let's go ahead and get started. It's my pleasure to introduce Bridget Alexander, who's Director of Business Development for Vuforia, and she will be talking about using Vuforia to create breakthrough mobile experiences. Bridget?
Thanks, Liz. And thank you all for coming. Today I'm going to talk about a few different things with Qualcomm's mobile vision platform, Vuforia. I'm going to talk about what Vuforia enables your apps to do, about the ecosystem traction that we've seen, and then dive into 3 specific content categories: education, shopping, and gaming. So from a 30,000-foot view, Vuforia is a software platform that allows your applications to see things in the real world. And it does this by creating a really simple way for developers to use computer vision. We offer a platform that supports Android and iOS devices, any iOS 6 device or any Android 2.3 device or higher. And developers can develop in Xcode, Eclipse, or also we have a plugin for Unity. Okay, this slide is a little bit of a build. The first ring is meant to show the different types of things in the real world that Vuforia can recognize. So all different types of print. You've got folks that do interactive books, like Guinness World Records has done from 2013, 2014, and now 2015. They've brought their records to life using Vuforia. You have Maxim Motion, the magazine that actually enables their cover to come to life with interactive video each month. You've got charts, maps, all different kinds of posters. The NFL did something with Deion Sanders, catch Deion and see Deion dance in front of you. Product packaging, another type of thing that we can essentially enable to come to life for everybody from McDonald's Happy Meal boxes to Kellogg's cereal boxes, tuna cans from Bumblebee Tuna, even Cuervo tequila bottles. And then finally, toys. So toys is a market that is growing tremendously. You might have seen in the keynote what we're currently doing with Lego for Lego Fusion. But folks have been using Vuforia to create interactive experiences with toys for quite some time. Mattel Hot Wheels, Tech Decks, and a number of different others. Okay, so once something is actually recognized in the real world, there's a number of different experiences that can be created on top of those. So you can have 2D or 3D animations. For example, if you have a coloring book that's Vuforia enabled and you color in a picture, when you look at that coloring book through your device, it can suddenly come to life, which is pretty incredible. My kids love that particular app. There's one called Color. You can do 3D augmentations, like Toyota did a Toyota 86 application where you can actually do an RC racing game that's completely a 360-degree racing game and experience in your room around you. You can do videos. I mentioned Maxim, but even more recently, Maroon 5 launched their Sin album, and you can actually make their CD cover come to life with exclusive video. One of my favorite use cases is product visualization. So I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but it's really the see before you buy type of experience where you can see a product fully visualized in front of you, and this is great for the shopping use case. Then you have other types of experiences where they're simpler. They're really just unlocks, where you're using image recognition, recognizing a product, and a lot of folks have done this in the sort of collect them all or scavenger hunt type of scenario. Walmart, Woolworth, Tesco have all driven folks into their retail locations to essentially unlock exclusive content that they can only discover if they actually go into their stores. And then finally, what we call a clickable page. So this is really about enabling a purchase transaction. So recognizing some type of image or product, and then being able to directly purchase it just by recognizing it with the camera of your device. Now, this final ring is usually where I actually start in our business discussions. As a brand or retailer, even developer, what is it that you're trying to get consumers to do? Are you trying to generate awareness of your brand? Are you trying to drive them into a particular retail location? Are you trying to create a loyalty program, getting them to come back to your app on a regular basis? These are all different types of experiences that Vuforia can enable, and it really represents all aspects of the customer journey. Okay. On the last slide, if you recall, those experiences are all about recognizing interactive products. So in addition to recognizing those interactive products or targets, using advanced reconstruction techniques, Vuforia can also now recognize your environment, so objects and surfaces. And this really gives apps an amazing awareness of the environment and allows you to create these breakthrough experiences, especially for gaming. So imagine that you have a character, and if your app is enabled with this technology, which we call smart terrain, it could, for example, jump off the podium, jump onto the table, jump over the microphone, and then jump back around because it now has the awareness of that surface and that environment. And what's great about this technology is that it works on today's everyday devices. It works on iOS and Android devices that we support. And we've built the API in such a way so that when depth-aware cameras are supported in the future, you as developers don't need to make any changes to your application. It will simply work even better on those devices. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the ecosystem traction that Vuforia has seen over the last 3.5 years. So as you may have seen this morning, we have some pretty incredible developer adoption. There are over 100,000 registered developers throughout the world. About 40% of those are located in North America and in Europe. One of the programs that we run is called our Preferred Developer Program. I actually see a few of them here in the audience, and thank you to them. These developers are our best-of-breed developers, so that when someone comes to us and say, hey, we really love Vuforia, but we don't either have the skill set or the resources to get started, what can we do? We can match-make those folks, whether they're a brand, an agency, an operator, an OEM, whoever it might be, and essentially connect them with one of those developers to get them started on their project. Well, that's not supposed to happen. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, so let's see how those 100,000 developers translate into apps. We've seen about over 12,000 commercial applications be developed over the last 3 years. These are apps that have been published to Google Play and the Apple App Store. Pretty incredible considering that, like I said, we've only been in the market for a few years now, since 2011. Awards. Well, we do like to toot our own horn a little bit. I am very pleased to say that developers who use the Vuforia platform do win applications, but I'd like to make a special call out to the fact that we being Qualcomm Vuforia, won the best award for an AR SDK for the last 2 years. This happened at Augmented World Expo this May and last May, and we really think it's because of a few different things. From an overall perspective, Vuforia really creates the best experiences in the most environments. And when I talk about the best experiences, it means kind of the highest fidelity experiences, so being able to have rich 3D content versus just simple videos, being able to have richer interactivity, in other words, being able to recognize multiple types of targets and also being able to recognize them simultaneously, and then also having the most realistic effect. So the content is going to appear to be firmly anchored to the environment. And when I think about best experiences, the idea here is that it's going to work regardless of the lighting conditions. It's going to work whether or not the target is partially covered or occluded. And it's going to work even if it's moving, because we know that end users, they don't know what a perfect environment is for augmented reality or mobile vision. And we know that if they have a bad experience the first time, they're never going to try it again. So we put a tremendous amount of effort to make sure that Vuforia experiences work the first time and that they work every time. Okay, well, it's not all about winning awards. It's really about creating value for our customers. What's incredible, and you may have heard this in the keynote this morning, but 35 of the Interbrand 100 global brands use Vuforia. And they don't just use it once, they use it a number of different times. In fact, nearly a quarter have used Vuforia 2 to 10 times, 4 have used it 11 to 20 times, and 3, Disney, McDonald's, and Mercedes, have used it over 20 times. So what that tells us is that we're really creating value for these major global brands. They're not just dipping their toe in the water and seeing how it works, but they're continuing to use Vuforia because it drives ROI and value for their customers. Okay, so the next 3 sections are going to dive into those breakthrough mobile experiences. We're going to start with education and then go into shopping and gaming. And I'll start by showing you some video footage of commercial apps that use Vuforia. Then I'll talk about some key use cases for each of those categories. And then we'll do some deep dives into some specific apps. So let's take a look at some educational apps that have recently been deployed using Vuforia. What do you think? Good? Good? Sometimes I like to start with a video because it's really such a visual product. It's hard to get your arms around it unless you can actually see it in action. Okay, so from a high level, as you can see, Vuforia is really a great way to make learning fun. Whether you're a toddler and you're learning about geometry, or you're learning about animals, or if you're even a grade school student learning about the world around you or the universe, or artwork, there's a way for it to become more visually interesting and more interactive for you. Even if you're in higher education and if you're learning about anatomy, as you saw the app which was created by Dacry, you're able to see the human body and actually toggle between the different systems of the body, respiratory, reproductive, circulatory, and actually really see it come to life. Or if you're learning about chemistry, you can see the way the molecules combine, or in that particular application, if you had selected the wrong balances, you would actually not see it combine, and there would be a way for you to more interactively learn what the appropriate way is to put the molecules together. And then finally, even if you're learning a trade like plumbing, there are instructional ways to learn that can show you specifically how to put something together, in this case in the AR Plumbing app, how you would assemble a faucet. Okay, I'm going to dive a little bit into a marquee educational app called Big Bird's Words. So Sesame Street created this app for little learners. It's basically a scavenger hunt type app whereby toddlers work with their parents to select words that are located in their area of proximity, for example, their kitchen. So they work with their parents to identify a word list. It might say milk, butter, cheese, and then they go with their parent around the house and they actually look for things that have those words. Using Qualcomm's text recognition technology, they're able to identify those words, and when they do, there's a payoff. Big Bird says, "Congratulations, you found it," and then presents them with other related words. What's really interesting about this app is the results. So toddlers who use this app actually show a 40% increase in the ability to recognize those target site words. And the has also won 2 awards this year. And just this week, it was listed as one of the top 5 apps by USA Today to teach kids how to read. Okay. So now let's dive into how Vuforia can improve and enable great shopping experience. Again, we're going to see a quick video. Okay, so when we talk about Vuforia and shopping, there's really 3 major use cases that we see happening. The first is what I find to be one of the most incredibly useful ways to use AR, and that's about the whole seeing something before you buy it. So we've seen a number of different furniture manufacturers, consumer electronics folks, from Samsung to LG to Sony, allow folks to see different products in their home and get a sense of what is the right size, what is the right color. How big of a TV can I really put on my wall before it looks ridiculous? So we've seen some tremendous uptick from this type of category, not only in those categories we've seen for a while, the furniture and electronics, but now we're also seeing quite a bit happening in the architecture space, where folks are using this from construction purposes to architectural drafting. So instead of seeing just a flat schematic, they're able to visualize what an actual apartment, home, whatever it might look like, both from a creation perspective as well as in the sales process for end consumers. Another use case we've seen is taking that see before you buy to that next level, so actually creating an alternate shopping channel. So folks like Lego, as you saw in the video, they allow you to see the fully constructed set, but then they also allow you to just purchase it right then and there. So they drive people from that page to the shop.lego website where they can actually purchase it. So now you've gone from going in your car and going to the Lego store and kind of trying to figure out what it's looked like pre-assembled to seeing it right on your couch and then buying it. So it goes from a 2-hour process to a 5-minute process, which is great value for folks that are working like me. Made.com is another retailer that's doing this. They have an entire catalog of furniture that's enabled just by a single target. So essentially, you paste one target of paper, piece of paper on the floor in your house, and then you're able to visualize different couches, chairs, lamps, etc., all just by that one particular target. So essentially, one item, and then hundreds of different products that can be seen within your home. A third use case is one I mentioned a little bit earlier, which is about actually driving folks into a retail location. This is slightly different, but we've seen folks like Walmart frequently do applications that are tied to major theatrical releases, and the use case is this. you download an app, say it's something like the Avengers, you get a certain amount of content within the app, but in order to unlock additional content, guess what? You have to go to the store, not just into the store, but around the store to find the specially marked placards. And so this is one of those kind of scavenger hunt, collect them all type of experiences. We call it retailtainment. But it's a great trick to try to get people into a retail store, and we've seen them do it again and again and be very successful with the content. Okay, so just to dive a little bit into the see before you buy use case, one of our developers, a preferred developer called Sadek, they actually white label that type of offering to over 40 different retailers. It's this virtual showroom concept. And the reason I wanted to mention this is because of the metrics that they've seen. Not only has their app done exceptionally well, or their apps, but they've got some real quantitative metrics that show that folks who use this type of use case see a 50% uptick in mobile conversion rates. They also have a 20% increase in the basket value, what essentially gets put into the shopping cart. And not only that, but they see a 30% higher engagement. And actually not on this slide, but they also see a lower return rate. So from a retailer's perspective, this is incredibly valuable. It's an easy way to get into the market. And it's a great way to create an alternate shopping channel for your consumers. Speaking of alternate shopping channels, if you guys have kids, you've probably been to a Scholastic book fair. So one app that Scholastic launched last year was called the Scholastic Book Fair app, which essentially is a companion app for the book fair. So now, as you go to a Scholastic book fair and you have the application, you no longer need to fill out forms or hunt to find out what the best appropriate books are for your child. You can essentially scan the book cover of a book that your child is interested in, and it will allow you to directly purchase that book straight from the app. It will also cross-sell, upsell you related books based on age level and reading level, grade level. And you can learn more about the book. You can learn about the author. There's a bunch of contextual metadata that's essentially pulling from Scholastic's website. So you're able to have a much better, more informed, easier shopping experience just by essentially scanning the book cover. There's about 8,000 different books that are enabled with this functionality, and they've continued to expand the catalog as well. Okay, so finally let's talk a little bit about gaming. I'm going to show you one more quick video. Okay, so again, I'm going to focus on 3 different use cases for gaming. The first is about unlocking in-game content. So this is really the simplest use case. It's about recognizing something in the real world, like a tech deck, and then unlocking in-game value. So you saw that one in the video. Basically, what tech deck's trying to do is to get you to buy all of their skateboards. So in this case, they're saying, collect hundreds of boards, and every time you collect one of them, you're able to scan the deck, and you'll get a different character imported to the game. Power Rangers has done something similar as well. And then there's a very different use case, which is really all about AR gaming. So this is 3D gaming in the world around you, kind of think Toy Story actually happening in your room. So you can see in the middle screenshot, this is an RC racing game that's happening in your room. The business model for this game is these folks will try to sell you different worlds. So here's the Candy World. There's also Cowboy Town and various other worlds. But it's so that you can have these different types of experiences in your near-field environment. Shatter Isle, which was one of the apps in the video, this also uses the smart train technology. So again, you're scanning things in your near-field environment that you're making your device be aware of. Could be a cereal box, a Coke can, your phone, whatever it might be, and then creating interactive gaming experiences using those objects. And then finally, there's some things that we've started seeing recently where you've got these traditional gaming brands like Plants vs. Zombies or Activision's Blizzard, and they're creating books as an extension of their console and mobile gaming brands that essentially enable 3-dimensional AR simulations where you're able to get backstories on characters and really bring the pages of those books to life. So really an extension of those gaming brands' offerings. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about LEGO Fusion. If any of you were able to hear this in the keynote this morning, you might have seen the video, the TV commercial essentially that LEGO did for this. It's an incredible breakthrough offering that's launched just recently in August, actually. And so what LEGO did is they've launched 4 different LEGO products that are all about going back and forth between the real world and the digital world. So for all of these different products, kids will create using actual LEGO bricks, and then what their creation is will be imported into the digital world using Vuforia. So for example, Town Master. Town Master is a game about making your citizens happy. You're the mayor of a town. What you do is you go into the game and you find what your citizens are looking for. They might need a pizza shop or a flower shop, and you can go build that for them in the real world, scan it, import it into them, and then increase the happiness level of your citizens. And you actually get points for doing that and see the percentage of their happiness increase. It's a really great game, and I strongly encourage everybody to try it. Actually, it was just named one of the Toys R Us Fabulous 15 games for the 2014 holiday season, which we're really, really pleased about. And all of these applications have done extremely well in the App Store. 2 of them, in fact, have hit the #1 spot in the kids' free game category. The other game I'd like to focus on is McDonald's Goal. You saw this in the video as well. This was actually the first smart terrain app that ever came to market, and it was tied to a FIFA World Cup campaign that was done by McDonald's. There's basically a 6-level trick shot game whereby you use the French fry box, you scan it, and that becomes the goal. And then you can scan near field environments, maybe it's your Big Mac container or your Coke cup, and you can use those as elements within your game to bounce the soccer ball off of in order to try to get into the goal. So this was a really, really incredible campaign for McDonald's. They launched it worldwide. There were over 1 billion fry boxes that had the specially marked artwork on it, which were done by local artists in each of the countries. And it was actually the first time ever that McDonald's changed their fry box packaging. So a pretty incredible campaign. Okay, so what's coming to Vuforia? One of the things that's coming, and if you saw JJ's 1 o'clock session today, you might know a little bit about this, but really there's a new type of toy recognition that's going to open up a world of possibilities. What I've talked about in my presentation so far is about recognizing sort of more flat surfaces with regards to toys. Right now we've announced a toy, an object recognition beta, which is really about tracking 3D objects and then being able to create augmentations on top of those. So detecting and tracking against the 3D object, and that's really what's different here. So the SDK for this type of functionality is coming this December. There's a closed beta that's currently underway, and if this is something that any of you are interested in, we encourage you to go to developer.vuforia.com and click on the beta link for this. Let me show you just a quick video again of this to let you know how it works. And you can see here that the child is actually recognizing the entire toy. Okay, well, if there's one thing that I'd ask that you take away from this session today is that Vuforia is really the best way to make products interactive. As you saw, it can make application recognize books, magazines, cups, product packaging, toys, and really create that connection between the physical product and your device. This is a way to really help deepen engagements with consumers, right? And it's a way for folks to not only drive that interactivity, but to drive sales and also drive repeat usage. So to get more information on any of these different use cases, you can go to vuforia.com or developer.vuforia.com, or you can also attend the 2 sessions which will happen tomorrow. The first is about bringing mobile vision to wearables. You may have seen in this morning's keynote that we announced support for an entirely separate SDK, which is Vuforia for digital eyewear. The first 3 devices that will be supported for digital eyewear are the Samsung Gear VR, which is really made for consumer types of experiences tied to the same content categories I've discussed here, education, gaming, and shopping. Another device which will be supported is the Epson Moverio BT200 and the ODG R7. Both of those are more specifically focused on enterprise applications. The other session is really more targeted towards depth sensing cameras. So when I talked about smart terrain, same type of functionality, but there'll be a much deeper dive into that technology tomorrow. Thanks very much. Can I answer any questions? Yes. No plans to announce on Windows right now. Come on. Yes. Okay. So the question was, have we considered anything in the healthcare space? In fact, one of the applications that's currently in development by one of our developers is a surgery simulation tool that's being used by Stanford. So it's for the Epson device, the Moverio BT200. It's basically, as you put the glasses on and you point it at essentially a leg, it simulates a surgery and exactly how the incisions should be made and what the procedure is. So those types of experiences are obviously best when your hands are free. So I think they're really good for those 2 enterprise devices. Otherwise, we haven't seen a ton in the medical space beyond kind of the more instructional use cases. For example, there was one that was tied to, it was called C-Brace Autobach, and it talked with you about the specific functionality of this brace and why it was better, and you could see somebody walking with it all off of a brochure, essentially. Yes?
AR sample with the Epson glass. You can see on YouTube. If you just search on YouTube, you can see a case already.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Search for augmented reality, BMW, and then Epson.
Okay.
You're going to find the glass and showing how to change some parts on the car.
Sure. I mean, you can have any kind of console type use case. So what we're actually showing in the booth is the ability, there's a few different demos, but one is you're looking at a thermostat and you don't really know how to manage the wiring. And so you put the glasses on and it's actually going to show you a step-by-step instruction as to how to use the thermostat. Yes? Uh-huh. So just if I can make sure I heard the question, do we have any examples of social impact apps? You know, I would say that if you went to Vuforia.com and you click, there's a app gallery tab, and you can search under education. That would probably be the most relevant kind of type of category. We have some case studies also that show how Vuforia moves the needle with regards to education, things that are much more detailed than what I've shown today, that show metrics in terms of how they really help toddlers or whatever the age group might be. But that would be probably the best place to start. Yes? So the question was, is there a size limitation for the toy or object? Really, it depends on how close you are, right? So typically, Vuforia is made for things that are at arm's length. That said, we've seen augmentations on the side of buildings, which you obviously can be much further away. So it really just depends on the size of what it is you're trying to augment. For toys, I mean, things like Hot Wheels, cars, Legos, you know, they're typically within your reach because that's kind of the play pattern that's happening, and that's generally how we see folks using Vuforia. You did? Nate says he just launched off the space shuttle in New York last week. Exactly. So we saw, for example, the Toyota 86 app. They did a campaign in Dubai where they actually did it in a huge dirt parking lot, and they rolled out a canvas that was like from here to the back of the room. So there was actually a life-size car on the canvas that they showed a video footage from a helicopter. So you can, it depends on how big the target is, actually. Exactly. Any other questions? Yes? Do you have available somewhere on the website that you describe kind of the front to back content development to support the platform? Yeah, that's really getting into the production, the animation, the 3D, the gameplay. You know, it really takes that and shows what it basically meant by the platform. Yep, we sure do. So if you go to developer.vuforia.com, there is an entire app development guide, and the forums are they're very, very active. There's thousands of users, and they're monitored by our expert app engineers. So any question should be able to be answered through one of those two sources. There are also sample apps on the website to get you guys started. So if you haven't used Vuforia before, we strongly encourage you to play around with the sample apps. There's a bunch of different use cases that they've been made for, and it's really a great way to kind of get familiar with the technology hands-on. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate everyone coming. Have a great rest of your show.